unlocking doors to your dream home. Keys to the Castle takes you on a real estate journey like never before. Welcome to the podcast where every key opens a door to possibilities.
Welcome back, Castle Dwellers, to another episode of Keys to the Castle. Today, we have a powerful panel to navigate the latest update in the New York real estate landscape. Returning guest, Brigitte Malik, home inspector extraordinaire from Inspection Boys. Joining our resident experts, attorney Jason Kleiger, and mortgage maestro Jason Marcus.
Heck yeah.
Hola.
Heck yeah. Oh, great.
Welcome back, Brigitte.
What up? What up? Super excited to be here.
I don't know if that excitement's going to hold. We're coming for you today.
Nervous now.
Yeah, today we're going to dive into part 2 of the Property Condition Disclosure Act changes in New York. And our last episode, we spoke very highly. And we were like, man, we need Brigitte here. So here we are.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, it's one of those things that everyone wishes it didn't happen professionally. I wish they would have just upped the amount from 500 to 1,000 and called it a day. So everyone would have won, because normally what would have happened is outside of the $500, what is it?
Credit.
Property
It's a credit.
Disclosure credit.
Yeah.
Right. So the credit basically compensated for anything that would have shown up the week after. And normally that would have been, in my experience, an appliance breaking.
Well, that happens, at deed handover. If anything happens after that, then, it's on the new buyer. Sorry. I had my boiler go the weekend I bought my house.
And it's happened. We've been
Oh, yeah,
contacted.
we spoke about that, right?
Yeah, we've been contacted
Already?
numerous different times. No. Just in general, people buy their house and then soon after they move in, something breaks.
Right.
And who
They're like,
do
how come they call you? Because
They call
how
us.
come you didn't see that? So it was going to break.
Yep, all the time.
I would just say, welcome to home ownership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing with the hot water heater within a week. Just bucked up and I paid for it because it's like, can't be the inspector's fault.
There's no way to know when something like this is just going to stop. And I mean, look, just recently we had all that rain and then snow. What happened with all the snow on people's roofs? If you had a leak and it started melting,
Everyone was
Yep.
complaining about flooding in their
Yep.
basement.
Yep.
Everyone that normally would not have complained in the years past, because it's now in the past, everyone's like, I got water in my basement. What do I do?
Yep.
You clean it up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Get the mop out.
Get the mop out.
Home ownership sucks sometimes.
It does. It does. All right. So let's get into the disclosures and what it's required. I'm like,
So I
I'm
brought
ready.
paper copy.
Okay. You're actually prepared, which is fantastic. So the old disclosure had 46 questions, right?
I will tell you right now. 48. 49. No, 48. 48.
48.
Yep.
And the new one has 56.
6. Yep.
So we're not going to go line item by line item because that's just going to take us forever. And Mr. Kleiger he bills by the hour, right?
Oh, yes.
So,
56.
So it's a significant change. So we've already went over the downside of
Yes.
it, right?
I could definitely speak on that.
Right. So
We have done that.
yeah. So it actually bled over into this episode, which is good for us that Bridget was here. So I have a note here, and all it says is lawsuits, right? So, and this is lawsuits from buyers who encounter undisclosed problems. Okay. So, Bridget, you and I spoke briefly before the recording started, and we were talking about sellers doing pre-listing inspections.
Yeah.
Outside of a financial benefit to your company.
It's a huge financial benefit.
Right. So
Yeah.
outside of that, we're not, right? Because you're going to do 2 inspections, right? So what do you think a seller can alleviate by having the pre-inspection done?
So I think there's going to be a ton of unknowns that are about to happen that none of us even know the answers to, right? The pre-listing inspection, in my opinion, is going to help relieve the seller from a lawsuit for the next 7 years, right? Because if there is something really in deep, so here's the biggest thing. You buy a house, seller filled out this new disclosure form, right? And to their knowledge, they think that they put everything in there. And now buyer has an issue and they're trying to fight saying, no, you didn't. You knew about this.
Right.
So how do you prove that the seller didn't know?
Pre-sale inspection.
The pre-listing inspection helps alleviate that a little bit. Not saying that it takes it all off completely, because sellers could hide things or things like that, or they could just make something seem like it never existed. But it helps take away that much more liability from them.
Okay, that makes sense. So, Mr. Kleiger, I see you itching already.
This is a big topic.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
very excited.
So he knows I'm coming for him next. He knows I'm coming for him next. So I take a listing. Bridget, inspection boys, comes and does the pre-listing inspection. The seller then fills out the new property condition disclosure statement.
Can I just add the state has not updated the form online yet?
Yeah, we checked moments before recording this, and it's still not updated. But we know it's coming because everyone keeps saying March 20th, 2024. March 20th, 2024. So no one really knows what is going to be on there, except the $500 credit is gone permanently. So back to the question, Mr. Kleiger. Bridget did listing happen. Bridget did pre-listing inspection. The seller now has a blank PCDS, which they have to give to you before signing of contract. That's the way I've read it and understood it. So now you have this. What happens now?
Let me give you an example.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but you turn instantly red
because there's so many problems that can arise, and you can be the most thorough inspector and still not find something like, for example, a buried oil tank.
You're not going to find that. No,
unless you have like if you're digging up their yard and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, and there are ways to legally and properly bury an oil tank, and then there are ways to not. And also, when you're buying a house, and let's say you bought that house and you have, no knowledge, the seller didn't disclose that they buried an oil tank improperly, and now there's an oil leak and it's seeping into the ground. And when that's discovered, you have to get the DEC involved. New York State comes down and they have to, visualize and inspect and everything like that.
It's an environmental issue.
It is.
Oh, and soil samples out the wazoo.
Oh, very expensive too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You got to get a backhoe there and you just dig and dig and dig.
That
until
wouldn't
it
come up in title?
No.
No,
It
that
won't be on the
doesn't-
title
no.
report?
No, because, so especially on Long Island, you have some of these houses that have been on oil for so long and then they transition to gas.
That's considered a phase 1 inspection, which is completely different industry.
Mhm. Yeah, that's commercial stuff. And
Oh, yeah, they do that for gas stations.
yeah. So let's say, you bought a house from a seller who maybe they even bought that house from a seller who buried the oil tank improperly. So now you have essentially two owners in that chain who never knew about this buried oil tank. Now, let's say you want to put in an in-ground pool. Okay.
Oh.
So these are the problems. And what is that buyer going to do? What's their remedy? And is this, the change to the Property Condition Disclosure Act, is this going to give that buyer a remedy now? Can he go after the person who sold him the house? So, these are just issues that you can be the most prudent and thorough inspector. You could be the most, understanding homeowner and know what issues may or may not arise when you buy a house. But at the end of the day, things like that will happen. And who's going to, people are going to say, all right, well, who's going to pay for this? And they're going to go after the sellers, and they're going to go after the agents, and they're going to go after the inspectors, and they're going to go after the lawyers, and they sue everybody.
Except the bank.
me.
Yeah, notice
Finally.
Notice I left that out.
Except the bank.
Well,
He
you
was
know
itching
what?
for that. He was like,
I was dying. I'm like,
He's like-
nobody's coming after me.
he was like, no, I just gave him the money.
And I think the question arises is, how do you prove the seller actually knew?
Oh, it's got to
Yeah.
be
You
impossible.
can't.
Yeah, we've been deliberating that for the past week
You
and a
can't.
half.
So hard.
So I just did my pavers this past spring, right? Did a whole new, brand new backyard. Beautiful. As they were digging to take dirt out to make everything leveled, you know what they found? In my backyard. And I live in
Tombstone.
Lindenhurst.
Oh, please don't
Live
say
in
that.
Lindenhurst, right? I'm on public sewer. And one of the guys is digging, and then all of a sudden
Cesspool?
the ground starts caving in. There was a cesspool there. Right?
Makes
Now,
sense.
Lindenhurst is public sewer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when that started, but it's been there a long time. Cesspool didn't even have a cover on it.
Oh.
Didn't even have a cover. So imagine prior to doing this, me and my daughter, my husband, we're all running around over there
that could have collapsed.
That could have collapsed. Yeah.
100%.
So how do did the seller know about that? I don't know. I doubt it. Are they original owner? When did that there's so many variables that now come up.
That's a good point.
Yeah, there's no possible way. You're going to know if they knew. It's
right.
Yeah, because
somebody did at some point in time.
Yeah, somebody put it there.
You're right.
And that happened. Obviously, you flushing your toilet in the house prior to sewer, it's going somewhere.
Right.
Oh. So I guess it could have cause if it was you purchased from an original owner. But
there are exemptions to the law, too.
Right.
Yeah.
But what about something that you should have known, that they should have known? That's something that was so blatant about your property.
Yeah, but
that you should have known.
It's
But
always
there's
been
no
wiring.
written-
How are you going to tell wiring that's been in there?
Well,
in
you
the
won't
wall?
know unless they open up the walls and know, like, oh yeah, that outlet right there has aluminum wiring, 1,000%.
So that brings me to a point that we spoke about last week. So there's been a new group of DIYers influenced by all this DIY TV, reality television. I'm going to fix and flip this puppy. Yeah. Okay. So now they start breaking stuff that they don't know the structural integrity of walls because they're not engineers or architects. They just like, oh, this room needs to be opened. Let me open this wall. Right. And they start finding, let's just call it a nest of God knows what.
Right.
And they're like, oh, but is that wire supposed to look like that? That wire's not supposed to be there. And then it starts like a whole new ball of wax that.
I do think this would be actually really good accountability for flippers.
Right. Well, they're accountable,
Right.
right? They can actually confidently fill out any property condition disclosure.
No, I think the bad flippers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Well, they don't last long anyway.
No, but we just did.
But all you need
We
is
looked
one.
at a house a few weeks ago. It's like a great area, right? So every time, I tell agents like, hey, if you see a house like this, let me know, because then that could be like the potential house that I want, right? So an agent sent it to me, went there, and huge piece of land. Walk in, and the investor or flipper ran out of money, right? So the whole house is gutted, and they took down load-bearing walls and didn't resupport things. Then they gutted the house, but then all of a sudden you see them trying to put up sheetrock to hide
what?
different things. And I'm like, all right, so flippers like this, I think this law makes sense. This disclosure, I shouldn't say, this makes sense then because now they're held accountable later on,
Right.
right? Because they're trying to blatantly hide things and not disclose of it. So do you get what I'm saying?
I completely understand. And to Mr. Kleiger's point, the bad flippers will go away. Because they're going to be on the hook.
Hopefully.
Dude, you can't play both sides. He's about to play both sides.
It's like unbelievable. It's like I want to knock him off the fence. Like, what do you think? Such a lawyer.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, look. Most flippers are LLCs. I think almost all are LLCs. So having an LLC fill this out, okay, they're going to close up shop, or even if they still exist, what are their assets? So I do believe that this would help in shoddy flipping and just shoddy workmanship, but at the same time, you're having an LLC do this. Now, LLCs can be, you can pierce the veil of an LLC for certain things. What that means is basically, the LLC protects the owners so that if someone gets sued, it's usually just the LLC and your private personal assets are not, subject to putting a lien or a judgment. So if they engage in fraud or fraudulent conduct, that can certainly pierce the corporate veil, though. Mm-hmm. So you do have that possibility because if they fill this out either if they fill this out fraudulently and they knew of something, and believe it or not, in New York, you can still sue someone for a latent defect in a house. Mm-hmm. So something that the seller, like even now with the 500 credit, you could still sue someone and there's a cause of action if they knew something and they took deliberate steps to hide it and that something was something major. Okay, so there's still a cause of action for that. But again, you're an LLC seller, you're going to have to pierce the corporate veil and, who knows.
Yeah, that costs money too.
Yeah.
This is great having an attorney.
Yeah. So that leads me into this part. This episode is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal or financial advice. Always consult with qualified professionals for specific guidance.
Yes.
You were saying, Bridget?
I'm just going along with the flow right now.
Yeah.
I just stare at Jason the whole time, just like in awe, like as if he's Will Ferrell in Old School debating. Like that's what it looks like to me. It's like this guy's amazing.
What happened? I blacked out.
It's like, oh my goodness, how does he know all this stuff?
Okay.
I don't know. I've seen it all. Well, no. I mean, well, kind of. Because, for the length of time that I've been practicing, you really actually don't have to be practicing real estate law for that long to kind of see like all this stuff that happens.
Yeah.
And you pick up on it. And you don't even have to be a lawyer. You could just be in our realm. We all have seen some stuff.
We've seen some stuff.
Yeah, we've seen some stuff. But knowing what I know, and the four of us sitting here, we all run our businesses very transparent.
Yeah.
So this doesn't really affect us at all, other than we're preparing ourselves to combat the bad apples
And agents. Because so many, try to say, no, don't put that on the report.
No.
Like,
So listen, the report is not mine. It's not my signature on it. I'm not the one taking the photo. Your job. And the reason I advocate call a good home inspector is because I want you to confidently enter your home after you purchase it and send me referrals.
right.
Let's be real. No, because I know that I did a good job and the best job for you, right? So I want you to be able to live in there happily and not have to worry about anything. And if the one thing that will guarantee that happens is a home inspection. And why I say that is because I've done it.
Yeah.
A lot of agents can't say they've ever owned property, and I'm not going to knock anybody, right? But I fully believe practice what you preach, right? If you're selling real estate, you should figure out how you need to buy your first home, or else you cannot counsel someone into doing the same thing. So home inspection is my number one thing.
I mean, I've worked in firms where we will have them sign a CYA or a cover your rear end letter if they don't get an inspection. We will ask them, did you get an inspection? And if they say no, we will then implore them to do so. And to us, it's so important, for us as well, for our own liability as attorneys, that we make sure that our clients get an inspection. Like I said, it could come back to us. It'll come back to the inspector, or if they didn't get an inspector, it'll come back to us. So yes, it's that important.
I love that you guys do that. Usually we're the crazy ones that are always like, okay,
Nope.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I got the question of the hour for Bridget right now.
Oh God.
So let me clear my throat. Okay, so one of the new questions is radon.
Oh,
Okay.
I have not caught up on radon yet. There's something big that's brewing, and I have somebody who represent home inspectors at the state level as like a lobbyist.
So you guys are going to combat it.
Yeah.
You're going up against it.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I don't know any of the updates yet.
Okay. So we're going to talk downstate because Mr. Marcus is going to be like, we don't have that problem on Long Island. It's more.
Actually, that's not completely true, though.
That's going to interest me then.
Yeah. That's not
He woke
completely
up.
true.
Do tell.
He woke up. He was like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
So we've done a lot of radon in Long Island. Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, you'd be completely right. Probably even like 9.5 times out of 10. But we've had maybe like 4 areas that have come up positive.
North Shore, I'm guessing.
North Shore, and
Stones.
you'll be surprised this next one, Woodmere.
What?
Yeah, we had one that came up positive in Woodmere.
Wow.
Yeah,
From what?
just radon. So it's caused from
In the
uranium.
bedrock?
Yes.
Yeah, it's caused from uranium. You don't know where there could be uranium, right? So one house could have it, the next house may not have it. So we've had it Woodmere, Syosset, and then North Shore, like Huntington, those other areas. Now, we've done plenty more in those areas, and they all came back negative, but we had a few pockets full of it.
Very interesting.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm dumbfounded
You
right
just
now.
don't know where those glaciers are going to drop things.
Dude,
That's what it comes down to,
I'm
right?
just completely
Long Island
in awe.
Formation. You learn everything on this
I'm
show.
completely.
And now, whenever we do it upstate, I'm always telling people, radon,
Yeah.
you need to do it. It's huge.
Okay, so explain to us, because now I'm sideways, what the process is to test for radon.
Okay. So currently, and I know that there's a big battle right now with radon and home inspectors,
Mhm.
right? And from what I understand, they're trying to take it away from us to be able to do radon inspections. right?
Completely separate.
Completely separate. So you
outside of home inspection.
Yeah, so you don't technically need a license to do radon inspections if you're doing it with canisters, right? Now, if you have, then there's two ways to test it. You have monitors or canisters, right? So for Long Island, it's never been beneficial for us to actually invest in monitors. Doesn't financially make sense for us. They're very expensive. We don't do enough of them to make the investment. To validate. Yeah. If I was in Westchester, upstate, anywhere outside of the Bronx, I would invest in it all day, every day. I'd get my radon license and I would do the inspections and the mitigation.
Okay.
I would do both because it's a huge business. I live in Suffolk. I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
Right? So what we do is we use canisters. It's charcoal canisters, and you have to leave it there for a minimum of 48 hours up to a week. It's very similar to the monitor. So it's literally like a monitor, and it's electronic, and that still has to stay there. And it starts to pick up the radon gases, right? And then we send it to a lab. Now, the monitors, it's just electronically, so you don't have to actually send it to a lab, whereas we still have to send the canisters physically to a lab. Gets tested. It's very quick. Then we get the results, and we read them and tell the client. So the monitors are a little bit quicker because it's all electronic, so you get the results instantly. Whereas the canisters, we still have that extra step of sending it to a lab.
How often do you actually test?
Well, once you have it, once your house test is positive, the uranium's not moving. So even if it's positive and like high enough levels, then you install a mitigation system. The mitigation system takes the area. Usually, if it's a basement, it's like negative pressure, like 2 PVC pipes, so to speak. It's not exactly, so don't get like, oh, you left out this, equipment.
I will not make you sign a disclosure, which will eventually be used against you in a court of law.
So it's like 2 PVC pipes that go into the foundation, underneath the foundation. And then the idea is those PVC pipes are then connected to a fan. The fan is outside of the house, usually above the roof line, and it causes a negative pressure so that it takes out the radon, the gas from underneath the house and expels it into the air.
This is fascinating.
Yeah. And then you retest, and you just want to make sure that the radon levels are now acceptable. Radon is second leading to lung cancer, and people don't realize that it causes cancer, and it's everywhere in the United States.
Are you testing this on every inspection? How does that work?
If I was in Westchester, I would absolutely do it on every single house.
But right now, it's just basically, hey, I want you to test for this. Okay, we'll test for it type of thing.
Exactly. I do not actively upsell it. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I don't actively, and it's not. And every once in a while, there's a map that the EPA has, and they show like the different hot pockets of it.
That's
Long Island's very low, but you got to remember it's based upon wherever they tested. So if they chose 100 houses and only one showed up positive.
It's the sample size is small.
Right.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm really concerned about this radon thing now. Not really.
I did test my own house for radon when I bought it, just because I'm freaking crazy.
No, I mean, if you have the ability to do it, do it.
Yeah, so I'm not really worried about it, only because prior to becoming a licensed agent, I worked for an environmental engineering company that did air quality tests.
Okay.
So it's not something really crazy. So I'm looking online right now, and a home radon detector is $90.
Yep, they're not that crazy.
Yeah, it's completely separate from your normal combination thing. When we spoke about it the last episode, I was just remembering about it. I was like, wait, they sell those things for your house.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure people in Westchester have them, but
yeah, the mitigation system, to install one, it's always actively running. The fan's always on. There's a little thing that it's like, I forget what it's called, but it's pretty much making sure that the air is working, that it's
the sensor,
right?
Okay.
And then if it stops, there's like some of them have like an alarm and stuff like that. Because once it stops,
that's what I need,
then the radon's just going to come right back into your house. So usually the lowest level of the floor would have the highest amount of radon.
Yeah, it's crazy because in Florida they have them going up several stories.
Yeah. So we don't do the radon in Florida.
It's nuts.
Yeah, Florida is heavily regulated, so I don't touch radon in Florida right now.
Oh, so the units that I sold, the building management actually put the test in there and had it run for about a week. And then they came in, they're like, oh, you don't have it, but we're going to put this alarm system in. And it was actually ducted in to the HVAC.
Wow.
But the thing makes a crazy noise. Why is it
crazy.
humming?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Thought you were about to make a humming noise on
No.
the board.
There's enough. It's okay. You don't have to be super quiet, Kleiger.
And
You're
you don't have
good.
to try to sneak out. You
Yeah.
can just say you're leaving.
Sayonara. Nice
Yeah.
seeing you.
Don't worry. You don't have, it's okay. Okay. We got a master editor. You're good. Okay. All right. So outside of the radon thing, because that was the biggest issue that I saw, because it's not normal on Long Island where I practice 80% of it. What else do you see? Just very surface level, because I know it's still, like Mr. Kleiger said, is very fluid. So is there anything that buyers or sellers should be careful filling out?
So the buyers need to know this does not, like if the seller is doing a pre-listing inspection, does not replace the home inspection. Because the pre-listing inspection, the seller is not obligated to give this report to the buyers. That doesn't change. The sellers just have to fill this out to the best of their knowledge.
Right.
Right. And then the home inspection helps them fill this in even more. Like how many times do sellers not know when something's leaking?
Right. It increases the accuracy.
Right.
I agree wholeheartedly.
But the buyer should still get a separate inspection and still know for their own 2 cents what's happening with the house and anything that they need to do updates on. There's also the mold disclosure. And people are not talking about the mold disclosure right now.
No, we're about to talk about it right now.
So pretty much the mold disclosure is if your house has ever had mold or been treated for mold, you must now sign that disclosure now too. Which I feel like, why hasn't that happened? Why is it just now happening now?
Why
because
is it only now a thing?
I have no idea. You'd have to state, but I think it's so important because so many houses we do, people have had mold, have not done anything. The attics have mold. Like you can't tell me all your Christmas stuff is in the attic and you don't see all this mold.
Wait a second. That went into effect June 14th of 2023.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep. It's part of the disclosures now.
What? It says at any time.
Actually, the amount of mold inspections we've been doing have gone up.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you test for mold during an inspection? Is that something separate that needs to be checked off or asked for? Like, hey, Bridget,
it's a
can you have
separate
the inspection
inspection.
boys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not included in the home inspection. It's actually a separate license for the state of New York. So the state of New York says we cannot inspect or we cannot say something is mold unless we have an assessor's license.
Okay.
Right. So when I'm doing a home inspection, if I see something that looks like mold, I'm not going to call it as mold if I'm using my home inspection license. Why? Because I'm not, that's putting me up for liability. So unless they say, hey, look, I recommend you get the mold inspection, I'm pretty much telling you like you need to do it. Right. I can't force you to do it because then once I add that service on, it's a completely separate contract. And now I'm using my license as a mold assessor.
What do you call it as a home inspector? What do you say to
Microbacterial growth or discoloration, things like that. Efflorescence. A lot of people just think, oh yeah, it's just efflorescence. You're right, but efflorescence is early form of mold too. That's just indicating moisture. So those are the things, and so then we can add it on, and then now once we're using our assessor's license, we can talk about it freely. It doesn't make any sense, but this is just what the state wants, And
the state gets what the state wants, or else we can't do what we need to do. Wow. Indoor mold has been referred to as killer mold. What the hell? Well, we know that.
Well, it's very dangerous. I mean, I've done mold assessments where, and my husband swears to me, my husband made me swear, I said that wrong, that I'm starting to be more careful because when I do a mold assessment, half the time I'm not even walking in with a mask. No. And I just walk in. Well, I made that mistake one time, walked in, and I started getting very sick, like within a minute or two. My head, all of a sudden, it felt like a migraine. All of a sudden, I couldn't breathe. I felt like my chest was getting hard to breathe, right? Like everything. I was like,
That's
man,
crazy.
I'm getting sick. I got a sore throat, right? And then when the mold testing came back, the entire place was filled with stocky botrys, which is black mold. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, there you go. No wonder why I started feeling sick so instantly. And they had a major mold issue there.
What the hell? So wait. You said mask. So you're not wearing like
Yeah.
a medical mask or an N95. You're wearing a respirator, right? That's what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh.
If I'm a good girl.
Oh, okay. Just say yes. Just say yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm wearing a respirator. Okay.
Try not to get her in
No, no,
trouble
no.
with her husband.
No.
She's good.
Yeah. Especially after that scare, she's like, yeah, never again.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. So we spoke, you weren't here, Brigitte, but we were talking about escrows, and Mr. Marcus said, refresh us, Mr. Marcus. We were talking about escrows, and you said that it's 1.5 times, right? So in the case that Brigitte or inspection boys or any home inspector goes in and does a pre-listing inspection, everything's disclosed, but now the appraisal comes back with a notation. Let's just ride this train a little bit.
And they're going to probably do the same thing because they're not experts. So they have to use that type of language, which is what's going to prompt. And in that particular case, there is no way the bank's going to hold escrow. Like that's like a level of like, no, this needs to be identified. Like, and that's when a mold inspector is going to have to come in and they're going to force a report on us. They won't hold escrow on that.
Right. So that means it will not close.
No, it's not not for something like that. Like that's a different level of, remember what I said, like these appraisers are doing sound and sight inspections. And even though they can't identify it, like they'll give us at least enough inclination where it's like another step is going to be necessary in this process before we're going to let you close on this. Because that's detrimental to the well-being. And again, all of a sudden we're going to let a family with little kids move in, and then what Brigitte was saying about those types of reactions. And now, I mean, just as human beings, we shouldn't allow that. And of course, the banking world doesn't.
Well, I want to add that job I was talking about, I did not see mold anywhere.
What?
It was nowhere to be seen.
So it was in the wall then?
It was in the walls, and it was in the HVAC. And you could not, like, I was looking, the only place I saw mold was in the tile in the bathroom, which is normal.
That's normal.
Like when you take a shower.
Yeah, the
you
grout
see it.
lines. Yeah.
Right. Nowhere to be found. So, and that's how I started feeling sick. So that's telling me the spores were everywhere, and the results showed that. Now I got a question for you. Once, because I don't know this process, once an appraiser sends the report back, does the bank's underwriter look at it too?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Okay. I always wondered that.
Yeah, it has to be like the appraisal has to be completely ripped through. And sometimes, just like you get those from the agent where it's like, oh, please don't put this type of thing. Like a lot of times we're sitting there very hopeful that and because it can go either way. There's some times where the appraiser's going over the top where it's like, this is clearly not mold. And it's like, oh my gosh, you just did that. And now we're like, you're going to send them through. And then it goes to that level where it's like all of a sudden money's being spent on it where it's like, this clearly isn't. But again, it's like, it's easy for me to say I have a vested interest. I want to get this done. The real estate agents are on, this side where they're like, no, this has got to be done. These people are idiots. And it's like, well, they're going to always err on the side of caution with these types of things. And it always makes me laugh because you're in this position where people are spending exorbitant amount of money to buy these houses to get in it. And it's like, this is the corner you're going to try to cut.
Right.
This is the corner.
Right.
Where it's like you got a 1-year-old and you're going to like sit there and cut the corner on the inspection or the mold inspection. Like this is where you're going to draw that line. It doesn't escape me on my side where I see these types of conversations where it's like, guys, like just don't get Netflix, like cancel a subscription, like get a mold inspection, please.
Well, what's funny too is you brought up a great point. Sometimes and this is one of my pet peeves, is the real estate agent will deter the buyer from getting these ancillary inspections, right? And we just had a situation not too long ago. Buyer calls us about a year later, and they're like, you didn't tell us there was mold in the basement. Okay. We pull up the report. We take a look, and we wrote in the summary page there was microbacterial growth, and we recommended they get a mold inspection, right? Turns out, who was the one influencing them to not do it?
No way.
Yep. Because the real estate agent was like, no, that's going to add too much time. We have to get to the closing table right away.
Yeah, but you're already there.
We got to sign contracts. We got to do this.
But that takes you another day to schedule.
Yep.
Now, mind you, in that case, we can almost bet dollars to donuts. Oh man, I'm old. That there wasn't a buyer broker agreement, and that. Yeah, so like that opens up a whole lot of liability on the realtor side. You're sitting there pushing, and you're representing the seller, and you're pushing the buyer not to have a mold inspection done when an inspection report's calling for microbacteria. Like that is opening up a whole lot. And
oh my God, that's like a whole different ball of
because that's now we're talking about the representation, which I think.
Oh, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah,
my head just
the state's trying to solve pieces of problems that I understand why they're trying to solve it, and like a lot of it, it's kind of going about it a little ass backwards because it's like I understand like what you're trying to protect, but it's like I don't understand the avenues you're taking to do the protection.
Well, we're not going to get. Oh, I don't want to do this.
This is a whole.
I really don't want to do this.
This is a whole. Other
I will be doing a class about broker representation.
So and that's good because let's just say new agents, okay?
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not just new agents.
They do not understand agency.
Yeah.
What they understand is percentages as it equates to commissions.
Right.
Okay. So the average consumer does not understand that when they call on that internet listing, I'm not going to mention any sites, that the agent they're getting is not necessarily the listing agent, or they are getting the listing agent who does not represent their best interests because that person has a signed fiduciary, which means
to the seller.
That means they have to do everything in their power to protect the seller.
Right.
Cut and dry. That's really what it is.
They can't even disclose. They have any conversation they have. They're technically supposed to disclose it to the seller.
Correct. And all you will get as a buyer with a seller's agent is fair treatment.
Right.
That's how it's written.
Right.
Fair treatment. So, oh my God, this is going in my mind.
Oh, it's going to be an interesting thing. I don't know what to expect.
Only because of all the recent litigation that we're going to get into later on, but in a different episode because it's just way too much to handle right now. Only because the recent litigation that's happening.
It's not even finalized yet.
It's not.
They made a decision and now NAR is still appealing it.
Right.
Too.
So where does that leave buyer's agents? I mean, I know where it leads me and I'm not worried about it because I'm 90% a seller's agent unless I know you, right? But even if I was a buyer's agent, and we don't want to go too far into this conversation, we're going to stick on topic, but a lot of agents will no longer represent buyers.
Yeah. Which is that's a travesty because buyers are going to be at a big disadvantage now. And I don't know. Okay, mortgage side, can they include the commissions in the mortgage?
I mean, you have your seller's concession rules and you can't exceed depending on what your type of product that you're doing. So like even in your best cases where you're up to 6% on FHA or more than 10% down on conventional, it's not covering based on these numbers that we're doing. And now if you're going to put the onus, this is why earlier I said where the state is identifying the problem correctly, but they're trying to come up with a solution that, in my opinion, doesn't make sense. I think the real estate agent should always have buyer broker if they're representing the buyer, but I find no problem with all commissions being split from the seller. And they're trying to change that, but the problem with doing that is if we start to try to get the buyer to pay for now their agent's commission on top of the insane amount that closing costs in our state is, it's just getting to a point where you're squashing the American dream based on logistics. And to me, the representation is the important part. It's not who is paying for what where. The commission's the commission and everybody's getting paid. So that's where I feel like this is kind of a good thing. And then the other side where they're arguing like the commissions and who it's being paid for, I think is a bad thing. But I do believe that the buyer should be represented by an agent where the seller's agent has to either do dual agency in that case if they're holding both sides of it, or you have very distinct lines for real estate agents representing one on the seller side, one on the buyer side.
And I will say this, dual agency is a very gray line in my opinion.
It is.
Very
110%.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, I can play devil's advocate, but I don't want to walk that line because I do not run my practice that way.
Right.
So when I say I'm a seller's agent, I'm a seller's agent. If you want representation, there's some great agents in my office, right? Ask a family friend.
Right.
I do it all the time, and people are besides themselves. They're like, Bisendra, why would you throw that away? I'm not throwing anything away. I wholeheartedly want everyone to generate wealth through home ownership.
Right.
Wholeheartedly. So if the best representation you can find is outside of me, please, by all means, go do that. Ask for referrals, recommendations from family, friends. You know, like go on, you know, I was about to say go on Facebook, but don't do that.
No,
Don't do that because all the keyboard warriors will come for me. So that's the only way you're going to get, I don't want to say honest, but you will get the best representation because they are outside of the seller's scope, right? So anyway, that takes us back to where we started, which is the agent was most likely a seller's agent and not a buyer's agent is why I can't actually understand why they would tell them don't get a test done. They're not paying
which
for
one?
it.
Mold?
Mold, yeah. Like I don't understand.
Sorry, I had to go back.
Mold, radon, any supplemental or add-on test, if it's available, there's a reason it's available for that area.
Well, people don't get it, right? Like, I don't know what it is, but I feel like agents don't listen. Or I just had a discussion the other day with an agent, and I'm just like, listen, they were like, it wasn't, I don't like saying argue because I don't like to argue.
It was a conversation.
Right. But it was a conversation. And I'm like, you have to understand from like our point of view, you're asking me to do something that is against the law, right? And you're stepping into my territory where this is what I do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
I don't step into your territory and tell you, hey, this is how you need to run your real estate practice, or you're doing this wrong with your license, whatever. I don't know. Well, technically I do, but I don't get involved in that side.
Right.
I stay in my lane. Maybe territory is not my lane.
Right.
Right. Stay in your lane.
You're preaching to the choir because we had this
the choir.
Yeah,
Hey, wait. Why isn't that FHA loan closing? Why? They're just paint chipping. Like, no, it can still close. Make it close. Like, do you know what I mean?
Oh, I get it. I get it all the time. And it's like, fortunately, you get to a point where you're at where it's like, we just don't care that person like needs something to happen that's out of the realm of what we know is the right thing to do. And the people that are going to practice their businesses in our side, on the vendor side, like they're walking a very dangerous line, and it really even crosses over into just regular business ethics and who we are as human beings. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. I only care about the well-being and protection of my client. I never care about your commission. If that's going to cost you as one of my referral partners, I cannot hit you fast enough with the door.
Right. I actually have a do not inspect list for
No
different
way.
people. Yeah.
You know what? I'm not surprised, actually.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not
not surprised
surprised.
even a little bit.
No,
Yeah.
there's some agents when as soon as I see their name, I tell my office, first off, where you can overprice it by $500 and we're booked for the next 2 months.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, you don't have to be nasty about it. You just tell them straight up, this is business.
Yep.
And
That's it.
the cost of me doing business for you is this.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's your
Right.
business. Run it how you want. But I completely agree with that because, like we were talking about before the show started, there's people that will basically attempt to coerce you into doing things outside of the scope of your license. My license, and we've said it, it's funny, we're just going back to the other one, is that my license is worth way more than whatever little thing you're worried about right now. And I've held it for so long. You think I'm going to jeopardize that for that? No. You got the wrong one today because that ain't me.
I have a family to provide for.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? That's it.
100%.
I'm too far into this career to even contemplate it. Not happening.
And I hate to say this. I don't want to be like, okay, we're bashing agents. It's just, there's a lot of agents that I love, like, trust. They're my friends. I don't mind getting drinks with them. I like being in their company, right? It's just the bad ones that really just put a really nasty taste in my mouth.
Well, that's all industries. I mean, I completely get you, but it's all industries. Every industry has the bad ones, and it makes the rest of us look bad.
Right.
It's the truth.
Yeah, and it really hurts my heart.
Yeah.
I don't get angry about it anymore. It really hurts my heart. And all I can say is they're just not trained correctly.
Okay, so
Go ahead, do it.
all right, so now we're talking about training, right? Where does that start with? The schools, right? I have a school, so I can talk freely about the school. You know, they recently updated the licensing requirements. So they increased it from 75 hours to 77 hours. Okay. And they talk about they pretty much added implicit bias now to it, right? There's still not enough that we can talk about during school. And like, do you know what I mean? Like it's just not enough.
So here's the thing. I don't think should be solely rested on the shoulders of the school.
No, shouldn't. Nope.
Depending on the office, that should be what I call new agent up and running. This is what you need to conduct yourself correctly.
Right. I wish they would do something like that in the CEs.
Yes.
Where, hey, this is something that you need to do because, you know, you have your mandatory, right? The mandatory core that you have to do. But once you get your license, most of the time these agents or these brokerages sometimes avoid certain topics and don't want to talk about it.
Well, so you know why they do that is because the attendance rate or the sign up rate is very low for things like that.
Yeah.
So, and you could actually speak to this because you have, you know, Main Street Success, which is the real estate school, and the sign up will be very low.
Yep.
Right? People just want to get their CE credit and they want to get the most for their money. So they just want to do the bare minimum.
You're absolutely right. Because I made a separate program that we have to pay. Not pay. Agents pay us to attend some of these classes because I have to pay an instructor to teach these or specialty classes. And
right. And then you have to file it with the state also. Right. So people don't understand the dynamic of it. But I agree. Certain trainings need to be done. But I think a large percentage of it needs to rest on that of the brokerage.
Right.
Because that agent is now an extension of you, and you are technically responsible for that agent.
Yep.
The one thing I like, and I got to ask on the inspection, on the inspection side, do you have to have X amount of time as an apprentice?
No, not for the state of New York.
That's where I feel like the appraisal side got it right. I feel like they're not getting it right in any of our industries. Like I feel like
it's very difficult now to become an appraiser. You know, like you have to go through the apprentice stage.
Course.
Yeah.
And I think all of our industries are missing that. I feel like if you're going to get your mortgage license, that you should have X amount of time serving under somebody to learn the ropes before you're allowed to originate.
I agree.
Same thing on the inspecting side, same thing on the agent side. I feel like if you really want to get to the root of it, that's how you can fix that problem.
So New York, the current licensing law for New York is 100 classroom hours. So it's more than real estate. Then 40 unpaid inspections, whether it's with the school or mock inspect. We usually call them mock inspections. Yeah. And that's it. So you know who my favorite people to hire are?
I'm really curious now.
Brand new inspectors straight out of school.
Yeah, because
I train them from the ground up. I get them all their mocks. I don't even let an inspector do any type of inspection by themselves until they probably have maybe 200 or 300 inspections underneath somebody.
So you're technically doing.
I'm doing my own apprenticeship technically because
that's the way to do it.
Not everybody is me, and I don't mean this in a bad way. I promise you. But when I got my license, I literally spent 4 hours doing a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom co-op. 4 hours.
Yeah, that's craziness.
That's crazy, right? But I was so freaking nervous. I didn't know what I was doing.
And you didn't want to miss anything.
I didn't want to miss anything. So I was literally looking at every single thing, right? I had to figure it all out by myself and figure out how the hell am I going to do this, right? And now that I have this company and I've grown it to where it is, right? I am not going to jeopardize my company for anybody. So now and the inspectors get mad. Like I've lost inspectors. I pay them. Like, it's not like they're not getting paid while they're doing all these inspections. It's a different pay structure, but they get mad. They're like, oh, I already know what I'm doing. I already have X, Y, Z. I'm like, that's nice. You're not doing it to the standards I want yet. So until you're getting it to the standards I want, this is what it is. And I'm not letting you go, until you do this.
I can see that.
You know?
People
So-
who have been in the industry a little bit think they know it all. Like
Yeah.
any, you know.
I don't like hiring guys who are already inspectors and been inspecting.
Oh,
I don't. And now, don't get me wrong. I've hired like one or two. They worked out, but most of these guys are stuck in their ways and they don't want to listen to advice. And home inspectors, we're a very unique breed. We were talking about breeds, like human being breeds earlier. Home inspectors are very unique. I am very ADHD. I'm very OCD. There's a lot of things I do the same way. At this, you'll find a lot of home inspectors are the same way as me.
agents are the same way.
Yep.
Agents are the same way. There's agents that even before here, onboarding an agent that had their license 2, 3, 4 years. Oh, we never did that. Why do I need that?
Yeah.
Because I said so. I mean, I can't coach someone that's not coachable, right? That's the whole thing.
That's the perfect wording.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. So you try to show them a better way. Let's not, I don't want to say the right way, but in my mind, it is the right way
Right.
because there's a protocol to follow, right? And that's in your industry, that's all you do.
That's all I do.
Follow the protocol. Mr. Marcus does the same thing. Follow the protocol. There's steps and a method to this to get to the finish line. And if you do it correctly, it becomes very easy. And I find that when you don't follow the protocol, things get very difficult.
So what's funny is I was talking to one of my inspectors earlier. It goes along with this a little bit. And I'm talking to him and I looked at one of his reports, right? He's a very good inspector. Love him. He's great. And I looked at his outlets, like just receptacle outlets. And I'm looking at his photos in the report. I'm like, I only see 2 pictures of outlets. So I call him up. I'm like, hey, tell me your reasoning why you only have 2 pictures. He goes, no, I still tested them all everywhere I could access, but I only put 2 pictures. I didn't want it to be repetitive. I said, I don't care if you don't want it repetitive. I want it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, the more pictures you show, I don't care if you have 10 outlet photos in the report. If you show me a report with 2 outlet photos versus 10, what's the client going to think? They're going to think, oh, wow, they really did over and beyond because there's 10 outlet photos.
Mhm.
They must have really tested them all versus 2.
It's true.
It's the perspective.
It's right.
Exactly. Perspective is huge in that situation.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not a lot of effort. I mean,
You're already there.
Right.
Yeah,
You're
I
already
mean-
there. Take the photo. That's it. Just take
No,
the
no.
photo.
I mean, he's
Makes a lot
testing
of
them, right?
sense.
He's testing them,
Yeah.
It's being
but
tested.
the pictures is what's protecting our butts.
Yeah. Well, you're protecting your butt and the person who paid you to do the inspection,
Right.
Because
there's diligence. It's like you're
Yeah.
being like, I like that concept. I'd rather deal with people that are being over the top with things than are trying to, even if it's the perception. You said
Right.
the exact right word. Perception is reality. So if I'm looking at an inspection where one person gave me 10 pictures of outlets and one person gave me 2, that perspective is exactly right. And you can't sit there and bank on the fact that, yeah, 9 out of 10 people might be like, not even think twice about it, but it's that one person that's now slightly disappointed or dissatisfied, where it's like, we could have avoided that with something that wasn't very time consuming. So why aren't we go over the top as opposed to like trying to shortchange it? So we take that practice on my team also. We make sure that we're discussing things and things that, because we'll get this a lot in the banking world. It's like, well, that person didn't ask, so I don't need to explain it. It's like, well, if you sat there and you get to the point where they ask, now it's like, why didn't that person tell me this? Why did I have to ask for it? And again, 9 out of 10 times, it might not be a problem, but it's that one time where it's like, okay, that just gave an impression in somebody. And now you look like that you shortchanged or you try to take a shortcut, which was unnecessary. If you just practice doing things that is systematically always going a little bit over the top, it does leave an impression.
it does.
You really did it. You hit it on the nail. Like,
Yeah.
that's perfect. I love it.
So before I get back to Bridget, I came prepared with something for you today.
Yes.
And I couldn't ask you last week because Bridget wasn't here. So will this new change, because we went over the escrows, right? So we're not really concerned about the escrows because it's going to be what it is. So will this cause lenders to be more cautious or tighten up the restrictions on lending based on this disclosure and its findings purely based on what is now known?
No, it won't have an effect.
But that was too easy of an answer.
No, it just won't. Like, because there's already it's everything in the banking world is just based on what the appraiser says. So it's like at the end of the day, it's like what they see or don't see. I'll sit there for my clients and I'll tell them, hey, I have experience looking at inspection reports. But even that, it's like, really, most of the time, they're going to take the advice of the attorney. That's who's writing the contract. That's who's writing in the list of repairs. Like, that's all part of it. So it's like I might put eyes on 1 out of every 10 inspections just to look at it. But of course, it's mostly the same conversation. It's like, this is a reputable company. Their job is to find these things. If this report was completely clean, we know the inspector did a terrible job, they're always going to find something. Welcome to Earth and Long Island. So it's like anything that I kind of give, it's just to reassure them that, hey, listen, like, pay attention to what they said. And anybody that's seen an inspection report, the inspector will give that level of urgency to anything that they find. So it's like, if this thing is a warning sign or a blaring red blinking light, they're going to point that out, and I'm going to take their word for it. Like, so at the end of the day, in my world, it shouldn't have any effect on if the seller knew about something or didn't. And I think overall, it's not going to be the hugest deal. Once again, it's going to be more of a Jay Kleiger problem after the fact litigation. We're going to continue to do our jobs diligently, and like life is going to go forward as it always is because we're diligent. So it's like inspectors are going to find the issues. The client's going to have the option whether to deal with that. The bank is going to lean on the appraisal, and we'll continue to close loans.
I agree with him. I don't think it's going to change any of that. Because maybe if it's you're still going to deal with your typical VA issues, FHA issues, those type of things. Otherwise, we don't send the report to the lenders.
No.
The only time they get it is if the client sends it to them.
So here's the thing. So with more information comes more questions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We see this from an agent's perspective daily. People on the internet, keyboard warriors, gotta love them. And I like it as a tool for education purposes, right? You want to educate yourself in the process? Fantastic. But what's going to happen now, you're presented with 2 new pieces of information. Mm-hmm. Piece of information number 1 is the property condition disclosure signed by the seller. This is what I know. This is what I don't know. And then we have Bridget's inspection boys report that says, these are the things that we found. And they're going to be like, okay, let's match them up, right? Kleiger is going to be like, okay, but why? And then he's going to look for anomalies, and then he's going to write his repair writer.
I think the attorney's going to start charging a lot more money now, too.
I think they're worth it.
Yeah.
I think they're worth it.
There's more work, more paperwork. I mean, time is money. At the end of the day, you don't do work for free. You don't do work for free. Like,
no, and that's why they charge what they charge. Yeah. Because, he's not here to defend himself, but his sole job is protection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? His sole job is protection. So the 2 people that you shouldn't skip out on is the home inspection and your attorney.
I actually do kind of like it, though.
No, I'm not. We're not against it. We're not against it.
I think the buyers need more to help them and to protect them more. And
well, the buyers have to be diligent themselves.
Right. But it's also like Mr. Flipper has been getting away with doing shoddy work this whole time and not disclosing things. Well, now hopefully this will help that. Do I think there's a lot of gaps? I still think there's a ton of gaps. Even with this, I think there's a lot of unknowns. How do you prove they actually knew? Like, you don't know. If I look at a roof, there's no way I can tell. I don't care who you are. I will fight.
I saw that in their roof leaks.
Yeah. And a roofer can come out and they'll say, oh, no, that's been there 5 years. Tell me, how do you know that was there for 5 years?
Yeah, there's no way to tell.
There's no way to know.
There's no way to tell.
No way.
There's no way to tell.
So we're going to have dumb stuff like that coming up.
7 years later,
right?
Depending on the quality of the roof that was purchased, the lifespan of a roof varies depending on the roof, the construction of the roof, and the materials used.
And who installed
and
it.
the installer, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of variables at play. So I don't know how this is going to play out in the future, but I just want everyone to have a level of expectations. They're not buying a perfect property, and things happen, and that's one of the joys of homeownership.
Yep.
And to be realistic in their expectation.
Let's see what happens in the next 7 years.
Yeah. So from a seller's perspective, as a pre-sale inspection,
Mm-hmm.
what are some things that you would recommend
I mean, at this point,
for them to address knowing what we know about this new disclosure coming out? Other than to do one, right? Because I'm definitely telling all my listings going forward, I would advise you to do a pre-listing inspection, regardless of duration of home ownership, just as a baseline. I've always done it, but now I'm going to do it a little bit.
like push it a little bit more
Yeah.
now. It's not.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I recommend you to do it, take it or
Right.
leave it, whatever. I think so. Obviously, you're going to do the home inspection. If the home inspection shows, hey, the water's slow to go down,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or it shows there's microbacteria growth. I think you need to do due diligence and act upon that. All right, water's going down. Maybe you need a sewer scope. All right, there's microbacteria. Okay, maybe do the mold inspection now too. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I don't think you need to go nuts and telling the seller, hey, you need to, from the normal $500-$600 home inspection, now all of a sudden you need to spend $1,100. I'm not saying to do that, but I think if certain things pop out, like, hey, this could become an issue, then take that extra step just to protect yourself more so.
Right. And that's where my train of thought is heading. As a seller's agent and listing agent, my duty is to protect my seller. So thinking ahead, if they get the pre-sale inspection done,
Mhm.
they can confidently fill out the property condition
Yeah.
disclosure before submitting it for
Right.
contracts.
And they can submit that too. That's a
Right. Right. So that's where I'm going with this, because I don't want anyone coming back for my seller, much less me. Right. So that's where I'm going to have them do that and then submit it so that we know we fill this out based on the information found by our inspector.
Right. And you know what I absolutely love about this a little bit too? Most houses have had how many owners, if we think about it?
Minimum 4.
Minimum 4,
Yeah.
right? So if a home inspector, you got to remember now, another thing that's one extra level of protection is the home inspection company's agreement, their licensing agreement.
Oh yeah,
of,
we didn't get to talk about
you know,
that.
what is it called? Agreement, to hire a home inspector. You
Yes.
have the home inspection agreement. I don't know why I can't get my words out. That's covering them even more so because the home inspector still has limitations,
Right.
right? The home inspector is blatantly saying to you, they cannot see through walls. If there's aluminum wiring behind those walls, they're not telling you about it because they don't know.
Right.
So therefore, did the seller know? Probably not. Unless the seller was the original seller and knew and saw those walls going up and saw that those were aluminum wiring. Now you have that extra level of protection protecting them too, because now it's like, well, wait a second, I got this. There's no way I could know that that was even there. I've never seen behind those areas.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
It makes complete sense.
Are you going to play both sides of the fence? Like, is it risky? Like, let's just say you do the prelim for the seller, and now just coincidentally, like now you're getting this request from a buyer. Now, like that to me can be like, it may be dangerous in your side.
It's a great question. We've already done it now. So a lot of times we get like a pre-listing inspection. We've been doing pre-listing inspections are not new,
It's not a new thing.
right? But we've done those where we do the pre-listing and then we get the home inspection, right? But the other interesting thing that we have done numerous times is when there's bidding wars. We've done the same house 3 to 4 times for different buyers referred by different agents. And we have to treat it as a whole new inspection
Oh,
each
yeah,
and every
fresh.
time.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a new day.
It's a new day. So we just go in there, treat it as a whole new inspection. The seller's agent recognizes us right away, but they're not saying it.
Of course.
No.
Now what's great is now that reason, that whatever the reason why the deal didn't go through, those other times, now the seller already knows. So does the selling agent. And now they have to disclose it right away instead of trying to hide it.
So we touched on that last week, right? But Mr. Kleiger is of the opinion that he's going to stand his ground. I don't know, right? I wasn't privy to it. I'm not present. I don't know that the person who conducted the inspection. Mm-hmm. But that was basically my grounds, because if the inspection is done and the buyer's representation says, hey, my buyer's still interested, but there's these bump items, are you going to correct?
They have to disclose it now.
Right. So because now the seller knows, so now they have to do it. But Mr. Kleiger is of the opinion, no.
No, they know it.
But we'll go back to
I know
him.
that's the
In my
burden.
opinion.
That's going to be the
Yeah.
proof. Like you're going to lose because I'm going to put you on the stand.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, did you issue a report to that particular seller? Yes. Did you do the inspection and then disclose that to the buyer? Yes. It appears in both reports. We can literally.
I see a whole movie happening.
Start
I mean,
recording this thing.
it's gonna
It's gonna be
happen.
like that. It's going.
Yeah,
You're gonna have
something's gonna
somebody
happen.
that does that, and they're gonna prove it. Hey, I saw this deal got accepted. Why did that deal fall through? They had an inspection. Okay, what did that inspection report? Wait, you didn't disclose this. You filled this out. And you
It's
didn't
so
disclose
easy
it?
to do now. You know why? In that story that you just depicted, you have 3 separate reports. Let's just, for argument's sake, by 3 different inspectors. So what? It's under the same umbrella of inspection boys.
Right.
Nobody cares.
Right.
It's 3 different times,
Right.
3 different days, 3 different inspectors.
Right. And I guarantee you, each one of them probably found something that the other one didn't find.
Of course.
Always happens.
Of course.
Makes
Because
sense.
it's always you're
That's-
always going to have that. They should all catch the major issues. They're not going to catch all the small ones.
Right. And that's where, lo and behold, the pudding is. If somebody wants to make a big stink about it, well, wait, Mrs. Home Seller, your property had 3 inspections done.
But wait a second. Remember, this has to be signed before
the contract.
So
Yeah.
that means those
Yeah.
other ones didn't get to contract.
Yeah. Yeah, but see that then I'm going to play Mr. Kleiger's part because he had to step out. He only sees one.
Contract?
Yeah, he only sees one contract, and he's only presented with one inspection report.
But the seller already knew about all the other ones.
Right, but he doesn't know because his client didn't disclose. I'm playing devil's advocate for him.
I get what you're saying. There's going to be people who do that, but I think it goes back to what you're saying too. I think there's going to be something where somebody tries to do that and it's going to lead up to a whole big lawsuit and everybody and their mother's involved. And guess what? Guess who's going to be able to send and get out of the lawsuit right away?
You.
Me, because I'm going to provide all the home inspection reports, all the agreements showing everything that we did. And the seller knows when something doesn't go through because another agent was asked, hey, can you fix this? And then
So you know who else might get sued? The listing agent.
oh yeah.
Because
be-
now there's 3 different buyers with 3 different home inspection reports that listing agent had to facilitate scheduling.
But you'd have to prove that the listing agent reviewed that report to know what was in there.
So
But
I
if
would
it-
have everything backed up with writing.
And I wouldn't if I'm a listing agent, and you even try to show me a pre-inspection, I would I'd shun it. Basically what Kleiger was saying. It's just I don't almost want to see it because it's putting me up for liability on something that you could do, and now I'm going to be subject to.
So if we're talking about him as an attorney, I see his point now. If he doesn't see it, then he's okay.
Correct.
I can see that point. It falls back on the seller.
it does. It always
So
falls back on the seller. But the
yeah.
seller's going to do what?
Oh, you're going to have, point here,
Point here, there, everywhere else.
And I think documentation is even more important
It
to
is.
cover your butt from all sides. I agree with you. If I was the attorney, hey, what I don't know and what I don't see, I'd rather not. But at
Yeah,
the end
just
of the
don't
day, the attorney needs to make clear if you're not disclosing something, just so you know, you're liable for the next 7 years and they can't come after you.
Yeah, and that's what he's saying, that he's going to write up his own CYA document for his own protection. And I understand
Yeah,
that.
I understand that.
And I wholeheartedly think I'm going to have him draft one for myself too.
You know what? I should think about this.
It's
upgrading
one
our
extra piece of
inspection
paper for me.
agreements too.
Yeah, I mean, you still have some little disclosures on yours, but yeah, I would ramp it up a little bit. And it's not terrible. I'm just saying, look, I'm only privy to the information you share with me, but whatever it is, whatever he writes, I'm good with.
Now that I think of it, our agreements cover us now for everything of that. So
Yeah,
I think we're fine.
I'm not worried about violating anything.
We got a really good attorney that can review your disclaimers.
Yeah, there we go.
yeah.
Because trust me, he's looking to make sure that everything is covered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I think the moral of the story is if you're a seller, just don't be a mutt.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's
Seriously,
really what
be
it comes down
honest.
to.
Just
that's it. I mean,
honest and
you own
straightforward.
what you own. It is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's just be forthcoming with it.
And most issues are not big issues. If you fixed it, you rectified it,
Yeah.
great.
Done.
The problem becomes when you deliberately neglected your house and now look at the condition of your house. Now, if you've said everything that you know that has happened to the house and the buyer is looking at this and they say, hey, you know what? I'm fine with this. I still want to buy this. Then great. Now the buyer's taking full responsibility for that too. And you've done your due diligence to your knowledge.
Yep. I agree. And, it just comes down to the team that's both sides, seller and buyer, align themselves with, right? So everyone just pay attention to who you put on your team, right? Lender, realtor, home inspector. It's all like the attorney is like the key component to the whole thing for protection. So just
So does this bring up title?
I don't think it does, but
I guess we'll
find out.
yeah,
Like
we'll
if it
find
doesn't
out.
close because it's a
I'll find
title
out.
issue or something
I'll
like that.
find out on the 21st. I have a closing set for that day.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a guest at some point in time from a title company.
Yeah.
Those
We are.
specific questions.
We're working
Yeah,
on. We're
yeah.
actively
Good.
working on that.
If you need somebody, let me know.
I did vicariously through your.
Oh, through
GM.
Jasenia?
Yeah.
Okay. Good job.
Yeah. That's what I told her. That's what I told her. So I'm going to read this for Mr. Kleiger. And this is his notes to the sellers, is to be honest and thorough in your disclosures and seek counsel if unsure about any aspect of your transaction.
It's true. That sounds very much like an attorney, Victor.
Yeah, right?
I feel like more of the issues are going to happen on the people that waive inspections. I mean, I really feel like you guys do such a good job out there that it's most of the time. I mean, like you said, most of these things are it's the major things. And it's like, usually you're going to pick up on almost all of those things. So it's like, I understand things can slip through the cracks, no pun intended, but at the end of the day, I feel like I'm more concerned with the person that has been pushed by an agent to waive an inspection to try to get a house into contract. And that's where I'll have more of a problem. What you guys are involved, I feel like it's most 99.9% of the time, it's going to be fine.
Yeah. That's a good point. What if the seller is trying to say, waive inspection or I don't know. There's so much shade. There's so much that can.
So a little context. During even the height of pandemic pricing and sales, I never had a buyer, like waive inspection.
Or were you not using it as a negotiation tactic?
I didn't need to.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you didn't, because there was a lot of people that use it as a negotiation tactic.
1,000%.
But it's
I was
dumb.
getting it all the
It's
time.
so
Oh,
dumb.
it's so dumb.
And you know what?
You must have seen it left and right.
Left and right. And it's like, I'm sitting there, and especially with the fact that if I'm pre-approving somebody and that's not my referral partner, forget about the fact like I'm all over the case of my referral partner if they're playing this game.
Yeah, I'm not
and I completely hate it and they know it. But like, God help you if like you're trying to represent the seller and taking my client to see houses and trying to get them to waive. It's like, you know what? I'm going to do something different. Why don't you let me get a commitment for them, and I'll issue a commitment contract and use that as the leverage versus trying to take away their protection by not getting an inspection.
That's a great class right there. Pre-commitment versus pre-approval, because most people don't even understand what the
literally
difference
just
is.
had this conversation with one of the coaching students here.
Yeah.
So they didn't know. And it was actually one of Mr. Marcus's counterparts at Contour. So I told her, she came to me for help. She's like, look, I have a buyer that's very close to me. They want to be competitive in this market. Their number's not quite there. So we ran the numbers yesterday, and then when she was leaving, I thought about it. I was like, wait, but you didn't give her the best piece of advice. So I saw her this morning, and I was like, look, what you need to do is get a conditional commitment for your buyer. She's like, but why? What is that? I was like, it's exactly what it is. It's a conditional commitment, with the condition being the property identified for this purchase has to appraise.
Right.
And the average agent they
don't know it.
They don't know. So I told her, I said, look, that's Marcus's boy. Call, I was like, Marcus will be here in 15 minutes. I was like, if you want to wait for him, he'll give you the advice free of charge.
Yeah, we call it secure buy. It's like, it's just a smarter, I don't sit there and in a lot of cases recommend everybody to do it.
No.
But like when you get into these situations where you need the leverage, I will take that over waiving
all
an
day.
inspection.
Hey, listen
any
to this.
day of the
All
week.
day.
I'm a buyer. Here's my license. Here's my social security. Run my credit. Here's what I make. Here's my W-2. Go ahead. Get me pre-approved, right? You're going to get a pre-approval. You can get that how fast?
I mean, I could do that within 20 minutes.
There you go. Pre-commitment. If I'm not mistaken, don't those go through like a little bit of underwriting
It's
too?
got to go through underwriting.
Yeah.
Right.
Underwriting's
So
going to basically...
that's the biggest thing. So now they've gone through pre-commitment. They've already given underwriters everything that they need. Oh, you're missing this bank statement. Or wait, how much is this car payment? Oh, wait, your mom pays it. Okay, I need this letter. I need that.
Yeah.
Whatever
it is.
things come up during
Whatever
the home
hoops are,
buying process, right? So now technically what's everybody always waiting for to get to the closing table? Commitment.
That's it.
Right. And so when
it's like the only things that I really have to do if I do my due diligence up front is I need to get the appraisal done, I need to get homeowners insurance in place, and I need the title.
Right. Which is not that hard.
Not going to take me more than a couple weeks to be able to shut that down.
It's huge.
No,
yeah, I mean, there's angles to take, but unfortunately, when you're dealing with people that don't have the experience in this is where these things and the wheeling and dealing. You know what I mean? It's like I don't ever worry about professional, but it's a point to what you're talking about. It's like, oh, I never had to do that. Yeah, because you're good at this.
Right.
It's like,
so as soon as I told her, I said, look, call up the officer, tell him I told you, and see if he's willing to do or if he knows. But it's the season one of Jay's contour buddies, right? So they're all phenomenal guys, right? I mean, I'm not trying to
God help that kid if he
no. So immediately text back, great idea. You want to do it for them, meaning the buyer. And she turned around, eyes lit up. She was like, absolutely, right now. And they were working on it when Mr. Marcus walked in.
Yeah.
And she was like, I never knew this. No one's ever told me in all these years. Why has nobody told me? Why haven't you told me? I said, we never had this conversation. So my job is to make sure you get the deal closed.
Knowledge is power.
Right.
And it's not every bank that'll do it. So that's a whole other thing. It's like I work for a place that does that for that reason.
Yeah,
Question,
she asked
can you do that non-QM loans too?
No, because that's investor specific. So it's like they're not.
She was ready for it.
But that's a great question.
Yeah. She was ready.
The non-QMs, like those, I mean, in itself, those are pretty easy anyway because what we're dissecting, but they won't issue the commitment on it, but when it comes down to it, so for those out there that are listening in regards to the non-QM, those are the out-of-the-box type of loans. So you might do something where it's a P&L from the accountant, or it's 24 months bank statements or 12 months bank statements for self-employed individuals, and that's how we'll calculate the income. What most of those companies allow me to do is send them the documentation, so I get to a point where they've already gone over these things and given me basically not the commitment, but an approval on this. So I know, okay, I'm going to be able to get this through in a ridiculously quick amount of time. A lot of times I'm going to have discussions with an agent to be like, hey, listen, this is a non-traditional type of loan. Like, this is where I'm at with it, and I'll explain it. But the other thing when it comes down to agents, it's like and I tell people to do this all the time, get me on the phone. I can't tell you how many times I have nailed that deal down, because when an agent talks to me and they can see that there's a competent individual on the banking side on the other side of this, it's not always about, how far into the process it is. Sometimes it's literally just about how the loan officer is answering the questions, how articulate they are, how knowledgeable, because it's out there. You can find out. I've been doing this for 24 years. You can have a conversation with me and I'm articulate and I can answer all of your questions. And a lot of times even I'll tell them to get the seller on the phone. It's like, if you need me to sit there and make you feel warm and fuzzy that I was due diligent, I'm happy to do it. And it's funny to me when lenders are like, no, I don't want to talk to them. First of all, I get all sorts of fired up when an agent calls me and asks about a pre-approval. And people get annoyed about that. I'm like, are you kidding me? You just identified yourself as a diligent, intelligent, hardworking real estate agent that I want to do business with. Shame on you for calling me and identifying yourself as such.
I love the fact that you're actually answering the phone too.
Oh, he answers.
I'm glued to this.
There's only one or two instances that he wouldn't answer.
The only time I'm not checking my phone is times like this, which I'm scared to even check my phone right now.
No, by the time we're done, you're gonna be like, oh my God.
But you see, I can't help myself even during these things. I'm sitting there listening to what you're saying, and it's funny. I was talking to a couple of the team members today where you were talking about just the obsessiveness and how you go about doing things. My obsession is I can't deal with having indicators on apps on phones.
That's why I'm going to go nuts.
You'll see my phone. It's there's not one app that has one number in it. My emails include. I saw a guy today with an email with 17,000 on. I'm shaking. I'm shaking looking at
whatever
this
emails I have unread are emails I need to go back and follow up on, or actually something I need to, a project I'm working on.
Yeah, so my real estate practice email has 0 unanswered, unopened, but I do have a special email that is just for online purchases. So that's where all the emails and marketing.
That's a really good idea.
I separate everything. So I'm like, oh, I don't care. when I want something, like if I know I'm going to go buy something from, I don't know, Walmart, let's just say, I'll open it just to see. Actually, no, I'll give you, for instance, today I was going to CVS and they always send coupons. So you have to add it to your card. So I go in there and I just search for CVS. I'm like, oh, you have a $5 coupon. Click, add to card. Thank you. And then it gets closed again. That's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so finishing that story, it worked in her case for me to give her that information because she's coachable. She was receptive to the information she was getting. And to Mr. Marcus's point, when you have experience, it shows. That's why she was like, Bisendra. Yeah, I can help you, but you got to. And thankfully, it was Contour, Mr. Marcus's outfit. And he was able to quickly say, yes, I can do it. And they qualify. Not that they qualify, that based on the information that he has, he's more than happy to do it for them. Right? Because there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. Mr. Marcus has already told you and will continue to tell you. But yeah, not all lenders do that. Because I had to ask her, there were some questions before. Who's the lender? How? And I personally don't know him because, I have my best bud over here. So I was like, how long has he been doing loans? Long enough. This is an easy one for you, right? If you're in that range in like 20 years, this is an easy one for you.
Yeah, you pretty much know.
And he answered back right away. So I have every confidence in that individual now.
And God help a loan officer. I don't even care if you're not in my company. God help you if an agent calls me to go call you and it's not positive. I'll tell you ahead of time how bad I feel for you.
Yeah.
Because I just don't accept incompetence.
Yep.
And I'm a nice human being until the teeth have to get shown.
It's hard, man. I'm gonna say this. Like when I was buying my house, I had my first lender was not the greatest. My second lender was great.
Uh-huh.
He saved the whole deal. But the first lender didn't realize he was incompetent, right? Almost lost the whole thing.
Ignorance is bliss.
And I can't help but still think about that. And he's still in the industry. And now I know he is a good lender because he represents some really amazing people. But it came at my expense. And now in my head, it's like, nope, you're tainted forever. In my head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You only get that one chance.
Yep.
That's it. You get that one chance. And people don't understand how hard it is for us in this industry.
Well, the other part of that we talk about this on all of our sides, like how thankless it is, because unfortunately, when you have a really good experience, you don't even know you're having a really good experience a lot of times because you have nothing to compare it to. If I have a first-time home buyer that I was talking about earlier where I'm going over the top and explaining everything out and I'm walking them through this and I'm holding their hand and I get them to closing and I do all the things that are right, most people just think that that's just the way it is.
That's the normal way, yeah.
You do. I see a picture on a report. What report am I comparing? Oh, everybody puts 10 outlets on a report.
Yeah. Yep.
But so that's why it's a little bit thankless for us. And it's like we have to high five each other. And we know like when we find these people in the industry that are good, we're like, we know you guys are all awesome and you're great. And we keep them close and we keep them in our network. And that's how we build. But a lot of times, unfortunately, it's a little bit thankless because again, we have nothing. They have nothing to compare it to.
And it sucks because not everything is always perfect. Even the home inspection process, things go wrong sometimes. We had an inspector.
A lot of time.
I got the stomach flu on the way to a job on the side of Southern State. Can't stop throwing up the other way too. Literally. I'm sorry, we had to reschedule everything, and they're mad at us, and we lost that agent forever. And I'm sorry, these things happen. I can't control.
Yeah,
what
life
I can't
is a
control.
real thing.
So there's things that go wrong, and it sucks. But that guy was really not a good experience.
Good riddance. If
somebody's that's how I say it.
Kick you to the curb after finding something like that out, it's like,
I'm not sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sorry.
I'm not sorry. People are like, hey, so how are you handling, all these agents not coming back? I'm fine.
Yeah, why not?
I'm fine.
A lot of home inspectors left the industry.
Yeah,
I'm fine with
you're
that.
good.
Yeah, we need the weeding out of it.
Yeah.
That's just again.
I'm happy about it because all the people who, I don't want to say couldn't cut it, but do not have the stomach or the demeanor for it, because we're in customer service, right?
All day, every day.
We're in customer service. And if your customer's not happy, you're not in service. That's it.
Yeah.
So let's get back to to this. So Bridget, any final words of advice on this new property condition disclosure and how to attack it from either a buyer, seller, or both?
I'm excited and nervous, a little bit of everything. I don't know exactly how it's going to go down, but I think it's something that will help buyers a little bit. And also I think it's something that will help sellers as well, because they'll have a better idea on exactly what's going on with the house. And I think it'll help with prices.
I think so too.
I think
That's why I
prices,
I think so.
because sellers come in and they're like, "Oh, my house is worth $700,000,"
Yeah.
and then you look at this and you're like, "Wait a second, you got major foundation issues."
Yep.
Deduct money right there.
I think you're right. I think it will level the playing field and basically reset everyone's level of expectation.
Yeah.
Of value at a minimum.
Accountability.
Oh yeah, I love it. That's why I'm unbothered. I'm unbothered only because I've come to terms with it, and it's another piece to my education puzzle that I have to convey to my now client.
Somebody's going to try to figure out a way to get it waived every single time.
I don't care.
You're going to start to see that somebody's out there always just trying to figure out, "Oh no, I never have to worry about it because I do this. And
Yeah, I have people to help, and that's the only road I'm on. Everything else, whatever rules I have to follow, I'll follow it. That's it. End of story. Mr. Marcus?
I only have really one piece of advice for everybody out there, and that's to call Brigitte from the Inspection Boys.
Yeah.
Wow.
what did I do?
I
No.
don't know. Just like,
You like her, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty cool. Can you
You're
tell
good.
this to my 8-year-old daughter?
Oh, tell me. I mean,
I'll send her a TikTok.
10 and 7.
I'll send her a TikTok.
Wish I was cooler.
That's all for this episode of Keys to the Castle. Join us next time for more insights and expert advice. Until then, happy house hunting, castle dwellers, and remember, everyone's contact information is in the show description. See you on the next one, and keep those keys jangling.
As we wrap up this real estate adventure, remember, every key we've shared opens a door to your property dreams. Thank you for joining us on Keys to the Castle. If you enjoyed the journey, please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. Your feedback means the world to us. Don't forget to follow us on social media for the latest updates. And you can find our contact information in the show description. Until next time, happy house hunting. And thank you for listening.